It's MVP, the podcast, and episode 3. Well, we had many options what to talk about. We've got a T20 World Cup coming up, but we thought we'd put that on the back burner because let's be honest, we have to look back at the AFCON final because, well, it was like watching a reality show, wasn't it? Incredible drama. So with me is Ray to talk about that. Let's first posit, Ray, that our good friend Yvette is in the building somewhere hosting a Premier League tour. So she got, I don't know, she must have been upgraded and left us here.
Yeah, she got exclusive access, VIP access, you know, MVP perks. That's what she's got. So she's having a good time. But what a final.
Yeah.
What a game. Obviously, modern controversy.
Sure.
But yeah, a lot went down at that AFCON final.
We'll break it down a little bit now. But yeah, it's one of those situations prior to the match, if you had said, I'm going to script this and this is going to happen, people would have said, no, dude, that's a Hollywood script.
No, from the moment that penalty, that goal isn't given for Ismail Assar, to the moment the penalty is given for Morocco, anarchy. Absolute anarchy, the scenes of players walking out, all of that. You can't have scripted that outcome. And then the penalty itself, the Panenka attempt, and then the winning goal. It was all just super dramatic. And I think it fit into the narrative of why we love football, because you can never call that. You can never say that this is what's going to happen. So it made for a brilliant watch. At times it was a bit uncomfortable, but I think as a spectacle, phenomenal.
I suppose let me cut to the chase. And I've spent quite a bit. It's a Champions League week, so I've had time spending with Salomon Kalou, one of your ex-greats. I know you're a Chelsea man. Bongani Khumalo and Sean Bartlett. Well, obviously, we've been talking about it. They feel, in many respects, that probably on the balance of play, justice prevailed.
I would agree with that. I would agree with that because it's a tournament-wide theme that's been established about some North African sides. And in our earlier podcast episode, our first one, I think Yvette spoke about the fact that...
She called it.
Yeah, some refereeing decisions are a bit suspicious. And even with that call, it was all dubious. Like, it's very subjective things that they tried to call as fact. And going towards the final, I think justice was served in the sense that Senegal were the better team.
Yeah.
That's the first thing. The second thing is some of the decisions were relatively unfair. And it was slightly uneven in terms of balance when it came to who gets the better of which choice and which decision. So I think overall, it was a fair outcome in my opinion.
It was certainly an unbelievable watch. I don't know if we'll ever get a final like that. I mean, the World Cup year is upon us, and if we get... We don't want all the drama, perhaps, but as a neutral, some of it, and certainly the footballing drama. We'll break it down in a moment because a couple of names will pop up. What I wanted to do in this podcast, and I know that you've spoken to Yvette, she has a couple of names that she's given to you about who was for us, because the Premier League are running a competition saying who was the best Premier League player at AFCON. And I actually just want to put it on my phone so I can tell you a little bit about that, because you've got to go to premierleague.com, right, to enter. And there's a club voucher that you can win. So give it some thought. You can use Ray's ideas if you like, or come up with your own. But who do you think was the Premier League player to be the most effective and caught your eye at AFCON? And there were quite a few of them.
Yes.
So you did have a word with Yvette. She came up with 2 Fulham names, which were interesting. 2
Fulham and Nigeria names. She said Alex Iwobi and Calvin Bassey. And I would agree with both of them being shouts
certainly
for
in the mix,
player. Yeah, they've been brilliant. Alex Iwobi in midfield has been transformed. Ironically, it's Frank who saw that in him, Frank Lampard. And when he was managing Everton at the time, he saw that, you know, the wing position is not really his thing. Let's just drift him inside and see what he does. And he's been excellent.
He's JJ Okocha's nephew, isn't he?
Yes,
he is. It's in the blood.
It is definitely in the blood. And he's shown himself to be an outstanding midfielder. Box-to-box, all action, but very creative, good passing. His teammate at Fulham and in Nigeria, Calvin Bassey, has been excellent at the back. An absolute rock for them. In the semi-final, as well as the 3rd and 4th place playoff, he showed why he is one of the players of the tournament, because his defensive displays were excellent.
And he was saying in the Premier League, there's not too many left-footed centre-backs.
Yeah, there's not too many outstanding ones. I think he's done his reputation the world of good from this competition. If anyone was actually watching him, he's at a great age. He's 26, which is usually when you enter your prime as a defender, but also defenders' prime is sustainable. So he's got a lot of options, I think, come the end of the season to see if he's going to stay at Fulham or if he might move.
The problem with us is I'm not so sure we can enter. I don't know, because being SuperSport employees, I'm not so sure we can enter the Premier League. I don't know. Maybe we'll try. And we're in a shop, of course. We're in the old school shop here at MultiChoice City. So any vouchers will be put to good use for sure. But I've got a name. You'll hear when I say the name, I'm probably being pushing the envelope, being a little bit creative with the definition.
Okay.
But I do have a name that's a no-brainer. But before I share mine, what does Ray think? I mean, who caught your eye?
I'm going to go for the winning team at AFCON, and I'm going to go for Idrissa Gueye.
Okay.
Central midfielder, obviously plays for Everton.
Yeah.
I thought he was excellent. He's 36, and he was at holding midfield for the entire tournament.
Wow.
Started every game for Senegal, an absolute leader, a rock, reliable, tackles interceptions, breaks up play, initiates attacks. And I thought he was a very stable presence in that midfield because they kept changing either side of him. So Pape Gueye would start some games, Habib Diarra would start some others, and I think he was an absolute rock in that midfield. Another honorable mention for the tournament would be, now I'm forgetting him, but another Senegalese player, I think, not necessarily in the Premier League, but Nicholas Jackson started off strong.
Yeah.
And then he sort of tailed off. But I think my standout player for me is Idrissa Gueye.
Okay. So you want to hear mine is, and I'm being a bit lateral thinking here because it's an ex-Premier League player. So I'm using a little bit of that. And for me, it's a no-brainer. It had to be Mane because, and that's what I wanted to talk about, coming back to that final. I mean, if there was one man who showed his leadership skills, it could have gone terribly pear-shaped had they not come back onto the pitch because there would have been double risk, really. They were obviously then they wouldn't have won the game. So he brought them back on, which of course then facilitated the fact that the penalty was missed and they went on to win it. So you could only imagine if he hadn't have shown those leadership skills and literally grabbed his players. So for me, he's an ex-Premier League player, so I'm sure that qualifies.
He's been there long enough.
He's been there, well, he certainly has. So for me, that was just brilliant. But I mean, your take on that, because in all of the drama that was going on, it needed some level-headed guy to pull it all back together for them. Otherwise, they probably wouldn't have come out. The game would have been forfeited, and then where does that leave you? So, Ray, take me through in your mind, because I know in my mind, had it not been for Sadio Mane, they probably would have forfeited the game. So that leadership experience, not that it surprised me, but it needed somebody to get the whole train and the team back on the pitch. If it hadn't been for him, they wouldn't have won.
I agree, because if they're all leaving the pitch and they're all staying in the dressing room, after a while, the match is forfeited and Morocco handed a 3-0 victory. So I think his moment of, let's say, intuition to say, let's come back on the pitch. And his words were, come back, guys. We'll finish this like men. Yeah. Because he wanted to confront it. He didn't want to shy away from it. He said, whatever adversity we've got, the fans in the stands were starting to, descend upon the field or trying to try and say, we're tired of this injustice because it seems like you guys are favoring them more than us. And so for him to just say, come back. Let's play. Whatever happens, let's deal with it. I think was an excellent mark of leadership, and it shows the level-headedness that you need in big moments, in big games, that he's obviously carried over the years from Liverpool.
Yeah, seniority, experience, all valuable, but well done to him. And he, for me, certainly, using a little bit of lateral thinking, because he's not a current Premier League player, but he certainly made his mark there. One who is, and all eyes on, was Mo Salah. And actually, he had, I think, Egypt probably disappointed, but that's not his fault. He played his role. And certainly, he would be a popular vote for the odd Liverpool fan, I'm sure.
I reckon he will. He got 4 goals in the tournament, which is not bad at all, considering they got to the quarterfinals, I think. Or the semis, rather, my fault. So you get to the semifinals, that's 6 games played. So you get 4 and 6. That's not bad. Mamouche was also excellent as well. So I think those 2 players are going to be popular picks for people who want to vote for the favorite Premier League player. But I think Salah, the speculation, the controversy coming in, is he going to perform? He does his bit, but Egypt don't quite go all the way. I think he'll be remembered fondly regardless. I think he had a decent tournament.
Yeah, absolutely. And others that probably deserve a mention. Well, let me say, when Yvette was talking, I said, what about Mbeumo? I had to, because she's a Manchester United fan. She said, absolutely not. But I don't know what she's complaining about, because he came back and picked up from where he left off and scored one of the goals to bury Manchester City. So maybe not an AFCON performance, but returning from AFCON, he's shown his importance.
I think his sharpness is excellent. I think, obviously, he was deployed very wide for Cameroon. They played a back 3, so they had a wing-back formation. And he was sort of cutting in from the wide right side. Didn't really get on the ball much because they did a lot of defending. They held back. Even against South Africa, there was a lot of sort of sitting back, and then they broke on us. So I think from Mbeumo, it was not a great tournament, but I think he still came out looking good because he held his form. He was sharp. He just did what the manager asked him to do. He's a candidate in a sense that he was never up below a 6 out of 10.
Yeah.
But obviously Cameroon are knocked out pretty early, so it's not going to stand out as much as some of the people who went a bit further.
Well, your choice, the Senegalese, I mean, you're at an advantage. You mentioned it early on. The deeper you go into the tournament, the more games you play, the more you're going to be influential. Yeah. So Lyle Foster didn't have that, of course, for us. But your overall opinion of Lyle, he did his job. I think we've discussed this before, that South Africa, probably the key game for Bafana Bafana was when we didn't get to beat Egypt in the second half against 10 men. If we win that game, we top the log, then we don't play Cameroon. It changes your whole destiny. But coming back to the Lyle Foster, effective and probably certainly going to play a role for us moving forward into a World Cup.
Yes, he will. And you could see a Premier League player, you know, in him at AFCON. He got 2 goals, he got 2 assists, very good from the group games he played, and obviously the knockout that we got eliminated by Cameroon. But I thought he did his job. He held the ball up really well, brought others into play, got very few chances, but the ones that he did get, he was able to convert some. So I'm not disappointed at all, and I think he should be our starting striker because he's got the experience of playing against these high-level defenders. He knows how to, you know, muscle his way through it. He knows how to be a bit of a nuisance, a bit of a bully, knows when to drop, knows when to pick it up, knows when to run. So I think as a striker, we've got a really good option as a starter and also the impact strikers that can come in at the World Cup.
Well, it's been an interesting discussion, and it's fairly relevant because this morning, as I said, in the house are the team from the Premier League. We welcome them this morning, Matt and Katie, who are in the building doing some work and getting a tour, courtesy of course, Yvette. So it's good that they asked us the question, what Premier League player was the most effective at AFCON? Just to close on that, it's remarkable how the Premier League brand, even though we're talking AFCON, is still relative. We actually saw it today, even in our multi-choice building, everybody wearing Premier League shirts. There's a buzz about it. And it's interesting because over the years, we've seen that sides have to live without their Premier League players when they go off to AFCON. But it's a quid pro quo because we see them impress and doing the job for their nations.
100%, and it's a credit to the Premier League if you have outstanding players at AFCON, because it's good for the competition that we're hosting in Africa as well as what they're doing in England. So the Premier League has been a big contributor. I mean, we've got 20 plus players who played at this AFCON, and we've got three winners, if I'm not mistaken, and former players who were in the Premier League that represented Senegal. So for the Premier League, I think it's a huge credit to them and the league that they create and the competition for places that's there. It can only make our continent sports better if we have players playing in the best league in the world. Well
said. Well, to close out, we can't enter the PremierLeague.com competition, but you can. So I'm going to push it up. What do you think if they enter Mane, they'll say, nah, he's not a Premier League player?
They probably won't have him as an option. I don't think
okay, so don't say Mane, but we can use your man, 36-year-old. Remind us who he is.
Idrissa Gana Gueye.
Absolutely. And if you do get that club voucher, you got Ray to thank.